If this setup plays out, this could be one of the most profitable videos that you watch all year. Today, I'm going to be explaining what is currently happening with Ethereum and the ETH ETF and giving you the best trades to capitalize. I'm going to give you my top altcoin picks in today's video that I think could outperform in the case of an ETH ETF approval. And I'm also going to explain why this could be much bigger for altcoins than anybody thinks. And I'm going to go through all of the relevant information to make sure that you are prepared. If you do enjoy content like this, make sure you are subscribed to the channel to get the early edge on the market, because every day I come here and I bring you the best opportunities in the market. Let's absolutely smash it together this cycle. Looking at what has happened in the altcoin market over the last 24 hours, many alts are now responding positively to the ETH ETF news. We're going to get into that. Lido up 33%, Arbitrum up 18%. Even a lot of the meme coins, Bonk, PEPE, have rebounded nicely up around 20%. So many altcoins are now starting to tick green. Of course, Ethereum's massive candle to the upside of 18.4% stole the show, because Ethereum for the longest time has not been moving and it was bleeding against Bitcoin. Today, it finally rocketed, breaking through its resistance level, and it's on a massive pump. Bitcoin as well, also a beneficiary of this ETH ETF news that we got. And I want to say congrats to everyone that did manage to jump on this trade. I know a lot of people in my Discord are up crazy profits. As you can see in front of you, Samra made 123% on the ETH trade that we shared in the Discord. Rocket made 247%. Everyone was absolutely smashing it overnight. We did really well, and I'm just so happy to see the community make money. It's one of those amazing days in the market where you have to be appreciative. And it was Fabian, actually one of the analysts inside the Discord, that smashed it with his calls overnight, calling ETH, PEPE, ENA, which were three of the strongest gainers today, all rising around 15 to 20%. We're going to get into the ETH betas later in the video. If you do want to join the Discord and become part of this community, the waitlist is open for another 4 days. After those 4 days, we're going to close the waitlist for at least another month. So this is basically your last chance to get in. And if this ETH trade does end up playing out, it could be a very busy next month or two in the market. So I do recommend, if you've been interested in joining, check out the waitlist in the link in the description. We're only going to be letting the first 300 people that sign up for the waitlist in. Last time I checked, I think there are a few spots, but they are running out fast. And to all the members in the community that are watching this video now, thank you so much for being part of an amazing community. I'm glad over the past few days we've been able to make some insane cash together, but it's only going to get better, especially if the altcoin market heats up. We're going to discuss that now. There's going to be so many opportunities in the market for us to profit together, and I love it when the community is able to succeed in this market, because we put a lot of work in. So to see the fruits of our labor come together on a day like this is absolutely amazing. So to begin with, we have to look at ETH BTC to understand what happened over the last 24 hours. And then, of course, we will get into the individual altcoins, which I am currently looking at. I've developed a whole watch list for you at the end of today's show, which is going to break down some of the most compelling trades over the coming days and weeks. Looking at ETH BTC, it's quite funny because price was absolutely bleeding. In fact, if you go onto the 4-hourly chart and crop out the most recent pump, it was looking like a doomsday scenario for ETH BTC, and that was really the sentiment that was echoed across Twitter. Over the last couple of weeks, so many people were coming out, shitting on Ethereum, saying that the ETH trade was over because the Solana ETH chart was at its all-time high, and pretty much everyone online was saying ETH was dead. But it's funny how during the most intense periods of FUD surrounding altcoins, how time and time again this market manages to punish those who are too bearish, because it did rip to the upside on the ETH BTC chart in what was a massive reversal, which I think did catch a lot of people off guard, because a lot of people have, as I said, been slating ETH across Twitter and, saying all these negative things, and ETH now responding super strongly has a lot of the people that are offside, so not positioned in ETH or the ETH ecosystem, starting to question that decision. Now, we will get into the reasons why this happened, but a major thing that I want you to take away from this video is to be very cautious when the Twitter army or the YouTube army or just the consensus starts to shift too far in one direction, bearish or bullish. It's usually a sign that you need to recalibrate and maintain some objectivity, because the market can definitely catch you offside if you hold a bias too closely to your heart. And I do believe this has happened in the ETH BTC market. And it's just a reminder that things can change super quick in this market in both directions. So why did Ethereum have this thrust to the upside, and why did a lot of the alts follow? Well, it was basically because the Ethereum ETF, which many people didn't think was going to get approved until 2025, just had a massive boost in its chances to be approved, with Eric Balchunas and James Seyfarth increasing their odds of an Ethereum ETF approval to 75% from the previous 25%. Eric says, hearing chatter this afternoon that the SEC could be doing a 180 on this increasingly political issue, so now everyone is scrambling. Like us, everyone else assumed they'd just be denied. See Nate's tweet below for probably order of events, but again, we're capping it at 75% until we see more. Example, filing updates. You can see a lot of the major players that filed for a Bitcoin spot ETF have also filed for an Ethereum ETF, including VanEck, ARC21, Grayscale, Invesco, iShares, which is of course BlackRock, Franklin, Bitwise, and more. And the reason we've seen the probability of these ETFs actually increasing, seemingly doing a 180 overnight, is largely down to political pressures. You can see here the US Securities and Exchange Commission asked aspiring Ether exchange traded fund exchanges to update 19B4 filings ahead of a key deadline this week. The SEC had previously been expected to reject the ETH ETF filings, and while there's no guarantee of an approval, the move suggests progress is being made. If you do remember back to the Bitcoin spot ETF approval, the amendments were one of the key signals that the Bitcoin spot ETF was getting approved. And after an extended period of silence from the SEC regarding the ETH ETF, this is a major step forward to indicating that in fact the probability now lies in the favor of an ETH ETF getting approved. The SEC is expected to make a decision on the first spot ETH ETF, which is VanEck's ETF, on May 23rd. So this could happen in as little as 2 days' time. So things are ramping up very quickly. Scott Johnson says this would be absolutely monumental. Beyond just thinking about the ETF flows, politically, SEC position re ETH security question insane if this happens. We're going to discuss this later in the show in regards to other altcoins, but it definitely does set a major precedent here for the entirety of the crypto market and is a major step forward given the fact that the SEC has been historically sheepish regarding calling Ethereum an outright commodity. You can see here that as a result of this updated prediction and probabilities for the ETH ETF approval, we saw the largest one-day market cap gain for ETH in a long time, plus $70.7 billion added to its market cap. Hasaka says here that this is the banana zone candle. If you don't know what he's alluding to, it's essentially this chart here that Raoul Pal posted, highlighting the GMI Total Liquidity Index, which highlights that during the yellow periods, the banana zone, which are the macro summer periods, this is essentially a positive period for the global liquidity cycle. We know how correlated Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole is to global liquidity. So that's what he's referencing, because we have ticked into the banana zone, and this is a chart that has been flying around Twitter to induce a sense of hopium. What is one of the biggest takeaways, though, from this ETH ETF beyond the direct impact on Ethereum? Well, Elio here points out that crypto is now the focal point of political pandering. Throw away your price predictions. We're going much higher. And basically, what he's alluding to here is the fact that the SEC is likely doing a backflip on the ETH ETF approval is largely down to the fact that there is a lot of political pressure. We are in an election year. Trump came out and did state that he was pro-crypto, and there is a lot of pressure on the Democrats as well to at least be seen not acting too rashly towards crypto. And there are definitely votes to pick up because a lot of people do believe in crypto, or at the very least, if they don't believe in it intrinsically, they believe in what it represents. You know, financial freedom, freedom as a society, liberation, etc. So it's definitely a big focal point from a political standpoint. So it's definitely probabilistic, in my opinion, that this latest backflip from the SEC did essentially come from some political pressures. And this does have major knock-on effects for the rest of the market, because the entire implementation of ETH as a security does affect a lot of the other altcoins which follow similar models to Ethereum. Ethereum was proof of work, but now it's proof of stake. So what does this mean for other proof of stake blockchains? We will see in the future, but obviously an approval would be absolutely massive. Now, it's important to note before I get on with the rest of the show here that just because it's a 75% probability does not make this a guaranteed thing. Of course, there is still a 25% chance, according to James and Eric, who are amazing analysts, by the way, but still, there's a 25% chance that this does not happen and the amendments don't result in a direct ETF approval. That is definitely the minority scenario here. I do believe the vast probability is now on the side of an ETH ETF being approved as soon as Thursday, but I always do think it's important to take into account that in crypto, nothing is ever a sure thing. But sitting here today, we definitely have enough evidence to start making moves in terms of our portfolio positioning and trades, which I want to get into now. So in order to position ourselves, we have to ask ourselves, firstly, from a macro perspective, what could happen to the ETH price theoretically if the Spot ETF is indeed approved? And there is data relating to the Bitcoin ETF, which could suggest a powerful Ethereum move over the next 60 days. I'm going to explain that. But firstly, before we get into that data, I want to remind you that if you do want to trade altcoins, Ethereum included, and you want to do so on an exchange with no KYC, there's a link in the description below to BloFin. It has heaps of the major pairs on the market for you to trade altcoins. And right now, if you do sign up using my link in the description, we have a special offer live for the next 7 days, which basically allows you to get an 800,000 PEPE airdrop just for signing up and depositing $100. And you can spin the lucky wheel to win up to 50 million PEPE. For every $10,000 in futures volume that you do accrue on the exchange, you get one ticket to spin the lucky wheel, and you can get as many tickets as you want based on the amount of volume that you build up. So if you do want to trade with no KYC, you can click using the link in the description below, claim that 800,000 free PEPE airdrop, and spin the lucky wheel to potentially win 50 million PEPE. Now, back onto the conversation of what could happen in terms of an ETH move if it's approved. Well, the most simple math we're going to use here is looking at the dates that the Bitcoin Spot ETF was approved and look at how it performed after its approval. And we can assert that in the 63 days following the Bitcoin Spot ETF approval, it rallied 75% to the upside to $73,800. Now, the Bitcoin ETF was approved on January 10th, and it took 63 days for it to hit its local peak. I do think that this is going to be smashed through and we're going to go a lot higher on Bitcoin this year, but that is the local peak for now. Looking at Ethereum, if the ETF is approved in a couple days' time, if we apply the same percentage upside that Bitcoin exhibited after its approval, this would take Ethereum to a price of $6,446.35. So we could be seeing in 63 days' time, if this playbook repeats, a $6,000 Ethereum. Now, there are obviously some caveats here. One, the Bitcoin ETF flows did surprise people, and due to those positive flows, Bitcoin aggressively repriced higher. So in order for Ethereum to exhibit the same gains that Bitcoin did, it would also need positive flows. It can't do it just with an approval with no flows, because the flows were a large component of Bitcoin's rally. There is actually an argument that ETH could run even higher. Why? Because it's a lower market cap. And if you have a lower market cap, it doesn't take as much liquidity to pump price to the upside. But a lot of the price performance here will hinge on the ETF flows. If it is approved, even without a single dollar going into the ETF, do I think ETH will perform well? Yes, absolutely, because it rules out any aura of uncertainty here about an ETF rejection, and it does set precedent for other altcoins. So I believe even if we don't see crazy flows, ETH is still probably going to pump. I just think with positive flows, it can pump really, really hard and run up to the kind of levels that Bitcoin ran up to from a percentage perspective, which would obviously take it over 6K. That is a pretty insane figure to think about. And Ryan here highlights the point that I'm making about how it's so much bigger than ETH. What he's likely alluding to here is the fact that the regulatory precedent that this sets for other altcoins in the market is absolutely massive. And not only that, this also highlights the political power that we are seeing regarding crypto. Now, a lot of the time it has been used for a negative effect, but given that it's an election year, it now is seemingly being used as a positive for the crypto market. So yes, it is much bigger than ETH, and this could also be much bigger than just ETH in terms of its impact on the altcoin market. So now let's get into exactly that. How have altcoins responded, and what are the top plays to capitalize in the case of an ETH ETF approval? Because obviously Ethereum will run, but if Ethereum goes to 6K, I got to tell you, a lot of other altcoins are going to pull multiples a lot bigger than Ethereum's multiples, just due to their size. I mean, ETH is massive. It takes a lot of liquidity flowing in to pump ETH. There are ETH beta plays, altcoins within the ETH ecosystem, as well as other popular altcoin trends that are likely going to even outperform Ethereum during this event. And that's what we got to discuss today to make sure we're prepared and look at a couple trading scenarios. So the first thing I want to highlight is Total 3. On yesterday's show, if you were a viewer, you should have been prepared for this breakout, because I did highlight that the Total 3 index, so the altcoin index, was making this flag. And we were actually in this region of the flag. So I said, watch for a break of this level. That's exactly what we ended up getting. Consolidation above here is a strong sign that we will make a push up to the $772 billion region on Total 3. Once you clear this high time frame level, it becomes more clear on the weekly. Then a run up to Total 3 all-time highs, which would take the altcoin market up another 50%, would be definitely on the card. So this is a strong sign from the altcoin market. What else do I like about this chart? Well, it's the fact that we had our lows print here, but then now we're making a series of higher lows. This is looking like a bullish reversal to me from a PA perspective, which I really, really like. Jusu said, more so than even the ETF itself, today's price action shows the amount of money on the sidelines ready to buy any catalyst. Even on denial, it would have taken longer but pumped anyway. Study preordainment. And I mean, he's right. There is a lot of money on the sidelines. Even myself, like I'm holding a large percentage of my portfolio in stablecoins because the last few weeks were basically non-action weeks. Okay, there were trades here and there were opportunities to profit, but by and large, there wasn't a huge time-sensitive pressure to be trading altcoins, buying altcoins. It was a time where you could chill on your hands in spot. But we do see when we do get these catalysts and a shift in the meta/macro conditions, how quickly capital is to pour back into the market. Even I opened some positions up last night that are now up this morning because I wanted to reposition in the market. And this isn't just exclusive to me. This is a trend across the market in general. And it's not just investors or retail traders or creators like myself. It's also liquid funds with a lot of capital that are also sidelined. Don't get it mistaken. People are not all in at the moment, and you're going to feel that as prices push higher. People are going to rapidly start FOMOing into the market. Donald says, anyway, if we get an ETH ETF, all bets are off. We can go to new all-time high levels and we'll all be friends again. Would be wild and would change my mind on a lot of things short term. So he's been vocally bearish about the market over the last week or so. But he's saying, look, the ETF, even my theory, it pretty much invalidates it because this is just so bullish for the market overall. Now, before I get into the exact altcoins that you can position yourself in to effectively play this scenario, I firstly want to discuss what happens if the ETH ETF is rejected, because I want to maintain objectivity here and I always want to be realistic because this can help you implement risk management. So we're going to get into the alts, but first, let's understand what would happen. Let's say if it does get rejected. And Doc says something very simple in my Discord. He says, if rejected, you just wipe away today's move. And that's pretty much the right way to think about it. Why? Because before today, we thought the odds of an ETH ETF were 25%. It was basically completely disregarded in the mind of the market. So if we do end up getting a rejection, you could simply just wipe away today's move. Why is this powerful? Well, this gives you downside. This shows you what the downside risk is. So if, let's say you're positioning yourself now in altcoin positions, now you have a clear downside invalidation where you can set your stop losses. And you know across most altcoins, maybe not the top gainers which are up a lot, but for most altcoins, it's around 7% invalidation, 8%, 12%, 5%, 6%. Some of the AI and meme coin stuff are only up 6 or 7%. So you do have clear invalidation, which in my opinion makes right now a decent risk reward proposition to be long, because basically you've just got to be willing to take a 7 to 8% haircut for another potential 20 to 30% move to the upside. Because if an ETH ETF is approved, I do see ETH running into the 4K region. Many alts in that scenario are going to go up 20 to 30%. If it doesn't happen, which is let's say the 25% probability according to Eric and James, then you've got your invalidation at 7 to 8%. So for me, as long as you're implementing risk management here, you can position yourself. I thought that was a really valuable point from the Discord to bring up, because a lot of alts aren't actually up massively. So what is the shorter term trade here? What are the altcoins that could theoretically perform the best in the lead up to a potential approval and also post approval? Well, you've really got to be focusing on the ETH betas. They did end up leading this move. It's not just the ETH betas that will perform well. I still think your leading mindshare narratives like meme and AI, etc., maybe even gaming with 9 Heroes and Gunzilla launching, all those narratives can perform, but it is the ETH betas where most of my attention is going from the shorter term trading perspective. Because what I think happens is if the ETH ETF does get approved, I think ETH betas actually outperform. On those trades, I'll scrape some profits and put it into spot, into the altcoins that I think for a more extended period this cycle, so let's say 6 to 12 months, can outperform. So that could be, playing the Ethereum betas. We're going to get into them in a second. You've got ENA, you've got ETC, etc. We'll get into them, DOGE, PEPE, and then rotating some capital back down into other stuff that you might like longer term, whether it be, your leading meme coins like WIF, your AI coins like Render, whatever it may be, you can make that rotation. But first, I've been focusing on the ETH betas and opening up some longs across the ETH betas. So what are they? What are the strongest ETH betas in my opinion? Well, the first one is PEPE. The reason we know it's strong is because it responded the strongest out of many of the altcoins, pumping 20% on the news. Luckily, I was still in a PEPE long. So everyone that was starting to fade the PEPE rally after the pullback to this major support level, they're in disbelief now as it pushes back higher. And it's funny because I had this level on my chart, and this is the exact level that we ended up bouncing off on PEPE. So it's really no secret. All it did was retest the range low and then pump back up to range highs. So clearly the next exponential move from PEPE is going to come on a break here. We've had a double top, so I am looking for a break of this level in order for us not to get rejected and then target range low again. So I'm just keeping my eye on that. If you did miss this initial PEPE run up or the pump today, remember, you do have the ability to get the 800,000 PEPE airdrop by depositing $100 using the link in the description, and you can trade on BloFin with no KYC. And of course, even if you don't deposit, you can still spin the lucky wheel by building up trading volume on the exchange. You've just got to click the register button once you sign up using my link below, and you can start spinning the lucky wheel as you build up futures volume. So PEPE is the first one that I'm looking at. The next one that I actually find quite interesting is DOGE. Now, DOGE as an ETH beta was brought to my attention by Fabian in the Discord. He says, ahead of the ETF decision this Thursday, ETH beta plays are the current rotation. Looking ahead, I think attention could turn to what the next ETF filing will be after Ethereum. So he's starting to look ahead. The most likely contenders are those with a CTFC futures product, which Coinbase launched for BCH, LTC, and Doge recently. Out of the three, Doge is my preferred bet on this, as it's also the leading ETH meme and has its own catalyst, followed by LTC and BCH last. This is really interesting logic that I'm not hearing many people talk about, but he's right. As soon as the Bitcoin ETF was approved, people had started pumping Ethereum. Remember, Ethereum ran to over $4,000. This time, if the ETH ETF is approved, you can also start looking to what the next one will be. Now, will it be Solana? Very unlikely due to the regulatory pressure Solana is under by the SEC. The CFTC has approved futures products with Coinbase for BCH, LTC, and Doge. So these are the three that, in my opinion, are the most likely to get their ETFs next. And I do agree with Fabian. Out of all of these, Doge is my pick of the bunch from a trading perspective. And it's very nice because you have this uptrend here. So you have your lows setting in at the 12-cent level. You have a higher low, another higher low, a break of the 200 EMA on the 4-hour. We've had multiple rejections of this major resistance level at the 16-cent region, which makes this a major level level of interest. If this can flip resistance into support here, that is the zone that you're looking at for the launch pad back up to the highs or the local highs at 22 cents and beyond. So I really like this price action for Doge. It is one altcoin that I'm strongly looking at positioning myself in. I've taken a small position, and I'll also look to add on the break of this trend on a confirmed breakout. So that is something that I did discuss in the Discord today. I did give this setup, but I'm also sharing it on the show. Just gives you an idea as to the kind of stuff that I do post in the Discord. Let's continue moving through the other ETH betas. The one that I like also is ENA, which is Athena. It's highly reflexive, meaning it benefits from positive funding rates. So in a bull run environment, which an ETH ETF approval would likely trigger, ENA, in my opinion, is a relatively reflexive bet on the market, thus could be a strong performer. It's bled, well, it pumped on launch, then it bled a little bit, but now it's starting to show signs of wanting to reclaim this major previous support level now turned into resistance. This level, if you can't see on the screen, is at the 86-cent region. This is a major level as well, because on the 4-hourly, you also have the 200 EMA resistance, which is starting to form. A break above, a consolidation above, would be a level, in my opinion, that I get interested in for longing. So definitely keep your eye on ENA. Some other ETH beta bets that are also showing signs of breaking out of major trends. You've got ETHFI, which is a liquid staking play on Ethereum, which I like. PENDLE, which is a DeFi play that was majorly beaten up during the last drawdown. It had a lot of FUD. It responded really strongly in the face of a lot of haters. This is one that I actually called on my Discord. If you scroll up, all the way back on the 30th of April, where I said I was starting to accumulate PENDLE at $4.20, and I had this support at $3.60. I said I was going to DCA into PENDLE. Well, a month later of DCAing, and PENDLE is now up 50% since the time of posting. That was shared in my alpha channel on Discord, and potentially you would have gotten an even lower entry if you were averaging in, because that was the start of the bleed. It bled, and then it rebounded, and now it's starting to break up again. So PENDLE's been a great performer for my portfolio for the past year. We first got in at $1.20. I shared that on the show with you last year in Q4, and PENDLE has been one of my strongest RWA performers, but is also an ETH beta play. Then, of course, you've got BCH and Litecoin. I do like the price action on Litecoin slightly more than BCH. This is one that I'm also looking at in line with what Fabian was talking about in regards to looking forward to the next ETF approval. And if you do look into Fabian's chat, where he's absolutely smashed it, by the way, in the Discord, he is positioned in ETH, PEPE, and ENA as ETH beta plays. He's holding them for his beta exposures, and he did call them a day ago and obviously made 20-30% overnight, and that's why a lot of people were absolutely printing this morning in the group. So just giving you a little bit of a sneak peek there into Fabian's alpha. One other thing regarding PEPE that I thought I'd bring up today is this tweet I just mentioned where I said, still confident WIF and PEPE are two of the best risk-reward holds this cycle. I do stick to this. So PEPE is obviously your ETH beta. WIF you could consider to be like a Sol beta. These are two plays that I still like in the market. So just thought I'd bring that up, considering I was tweeting about it this morning. One more little bit of alpha for you. I'm probably not going to go through it too much because this show's already getting long, but if you're interested, screenshot the video right now or pause the video and take a look, because I have an ETH beta play research report that one of my researchers put together. So he basically highlights the performance, the float, and the potential of each Ethereum ecosystem coin. He goes through all of them, so I'll just pause to allow you to screenshot, because this could be very valuable for you in terms of looking at ETH betas. So that's absolutely amazing document he put together. Make sure to screenshot it and check it out. I won't bore you too much with going through it. So I do believe that if we do see an approval here, there is definitely a lot of upside, specifically for the ETH betas that I talked about, but also for other altcoins. It'll be a major catalyst for the entire crypto industry as a whole. I do like the ETH betas. Looking forward to the next approval. I think Fabian's logic is pretty spot on. It may be a little bit preemptive, but you kind of have to be preemptive in this market. So for some of the more immediate ETH betas, we discussed some of them in that watch list. Here's the TradingView watch list. I'm actually going to put this in the description below. I'll share this TradingView watch list with you in the description below if you do want to check it out. This will be there. This is the watch list of the ETH betas, some of the ones that responded the strongest out of the news. I also like the fact we do have that invalidation on a lot of these altcoins of 7 to 8%. For some of the ETH betas, it's closer to 10 to 15%. So in terms of sizing up risk when it comes to positioning yourself, spot/leverage, etc., you do have to keep that in mind. how prepared are you for that 25% eventuality of a rejected ETF? If you are interested in any of the resources I mentioned today, whether that be the waitlist for the Discord, you can use the link in the description below, or the BloFin link, which can get you access to that PEPE airdrop, and of course, gives you a place to trade no KYC. Looking forward to seeing how this week develops, considering we only have a couple days left regarding the ETH ETF. I'm going to be giving you all the coverage on this channel and also on my Twitter to keep you updated in what could be a very volatile and interesting week for the crypto market. I'm going to see you in the next one, probably tomorrow at this rate. Have a lovely rest of your day. Peace out.